And we are here in. I'm on the bridge. You're in San Francisco. So
I'm in San Francisco.
I'm in Starfleet. You're at Starfleet.
Yes. Yes, I am at base. I am at HQ. Why don't you come back? Because we have had some issues with the way that you are leading your fearless crew into battle against Klingons everywhere.
But look, I'm bald. Klingons are bald. Picard is bald. You know, it works. It works.
Yeah,
Yeah. You know what's funny though is Starfleet headquarters is actually the the Anaheim Convention Center.
which is where you're working right now.
Yes. So if you're in LA, come find me right now at the Anaheim
The
Convention
Anaheim
Center.
Convention Center. Yeah,
You've got to walk around the entire thing to find me though. I'm hiding
to
in a
find.
corner someplace.
It's interesting how Hollywood works, but then again, to be fair, I mean that's how it is working now. I mean they film tons of stuff in Atlanta and say it's in Hollywood.
Oh yeah, I mean,
So,
Vancouver and Toronto double as LA a lot. So
yep.
yeah, that's normal. It's funny, you know, like when I moved out here, there were a bunch of places that I saw, and I was like, oh hey, I recognize this place from this movie. Wasn't
Yeah.
this supposed to be Chicago?
Chicago, exactly. And you realize that am I in Argentina?
Right?
You know.
Or back back at our old channel, we had an office for a little while at the Pacific Design Center, which I only recognized because it was the apartment complex that Sandra Bullock and Sylvester Stallone lived in Demolition Man.
Oh, that's cool.
It's a very bizarre looking
That's
building.
but that's actually kind of cool. I mean, there's a few bizarre looking buildings. I mean,
Yeah.
what's the building down the street from the Henson Studios that looks like a cruise ship?
Oh, yeah, I know what you're
It's
talking
some
about, but I can't.
design, it's
Yeah,
some art and design studio, but it looks like a cruise ship.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, dude, have you seen the speaking about cruise ships? Segue to Star Trek stuff. Have you seen the Star Trek cruise?
No, I haven't yet.
So so so
Explain.
so so the Star Trek cruise. I think they're on their third voyage now.
Mhm.
Whenever they actually leave this next time, it's something. It looks really fun. Like in
Ooh,
this new COVID era, I don't know how I feel about going on a cruise until I'm
cruise. Yeah.
vaccinated and everyone else is vaccinated.
Right. But
Um,
this one is backed by Elon Musk and it goes to at least Pluto, right?
right. Yeah. It's basically a Star Trek convention on a boat.
Okay.
So
Okay. I
so yeah, it looks like fun. It's expensive though. Like
Yeah.
I was looking into it. I was like, oh, this could be really fun. And then I started looking at the ticket prices, and they're like $1,200, and I'm like, that's a lot to go on a cruise with Star Trek people. I can see a lot of them at other conventions.
That's true. Well, I mean, there's two I'm not I don't want to make any sort of assumptions about anyone, but there are two things that I feel pretty safe around when it comes to all this going on. Trekkies would be one, and if Will Wheaton's going, then I have to assume that it's kind of
Yeah,
okay.
I would assume that now they're probably requiring everyone who goes to have a
Yeah,
vaccine card thing.
a card.
Um,
Yeah, yeah.
But I don't remember if we talked about this last week or not. But did you see that now there is a new official Star Trek convention?
No, I did not.
So one of the announcements is that now, starting next year in Chicago, and moving cities every consecutive year after that, there will be an official Star Trek convention that travels around. Um, which makes me happy because I don't want to shit on the creation event because I've never actually been to it. But every time I've checked in with them to see about going, um, and covering it as press, at least from our end,
Right.
the people running it were like, yeah, we'll get back to you, we'll get back to you. They get back to me the day before the convention starts, and they're like, hey, we don't have any more press badges available. And I'm like, well, if you had told me this like 3 weeks ago, I would have maybe seen about buying a ticket to come out and
Right.
just asked about getting press access without actually getting a press badge. But the fact that you told me the day before I would
Day
have to be
before.
there, I'm like, I'm not even gonna go. I can't
That
I can't figure that out.
Yeah, no, it leaves you no time. It feels kind of shitty too because it feels like you know how there's that one person in your friends group who's like, "Yeah, I I think I can come hang out with you, but I might have this other thing going on."
Yeah,
And then they wait till the last minute and they're like, "Oh yeah, I can't make it. I got this other thing going on." It feels like
that's
that, you know?
that's
Like
me.
they're
That's me.
they're they're like, "Well, we know you're cut that's you." I try not to be that friend.
I
Um,
try not to be
I
that
think
guy
we
either.
all are.
Like I try, like usually for me with that kind of thing, it's don't count on me being able to go to this. I will try and make it, but
Yeah.
let's go with assume I can't, and I will let you know if I can.
Yeah, I try to be like, I think I'm gonna make it, and I'll let you know if I can't. Um, but maybe I should be like the I don't think I can, but I'll let you know if I can. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah. I don't know.
I always try to do
I just
something.
always feel like a dick because like I'm like I don't want to be that guy who's like yeah I'm gonna show up and then be like dude I was up until 3 o'clock in the morning working on shit last night
Yeah.
I can't go out tonight.
That's true. The thing is, but if I know that I'm going to be unavailable, I let you know. But
Yeah.
I try. Like even today, I'm actually in Florida right now. I'm helping out with some family things and stuff like that. Hence why you see San Francisco in the background because San Francisco and Florida are the same place. Um, but like even today, I'm sitting there. I'm like, I think I can time it out. I need to time it out, but I'm not sure because I'm trying to take care of everything, and it gets a little harder, when you you're taking care of your obligations as opposed to just your normal week to week or day to day kind of routine.
Right. So I'm while we're talking really here really quick. So me and Charles, aka Heirloom, who is a fellow Illuminerdi cast member. He
Mhm.
also does stuff on his own, but he had been joining us on the Star Trek show for a little while. He just filled in for L on the Retro Ranger wrap up. He and I
Right on.
got into this thing the other night on Twitter. He mentioned like really hating a character in some show, and like he's always talking about how much he hates Neelix
Oh, okay,
from Star
okay.
Trek Voyager.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
So so
As do
I
many people.
so I hit him up, or I had replied to his tweet asking him about. I was like, wait, which one? Like, I forget why I said, but it was something about which one do you hate more, like Neelix or this guy, or like what about Neelix or something like that.
Yeah.
So that turned into a thing where I ended up photoshopping Neelix into an episode of Power Rangers Dino Fury. Um, yeah, I showed these on retro, but because it's also a Star Trek thing, I feel like now I have to show them on here too because I kind of want you to see
I would like to see this.
what I did here. But while I'm doing that, why don't you go ahead and at least prep us for the episode of Enterprise that we're going to be talking about today?
Okay, we're detained now. Is this technically episode 21?
Technically, in production order, this would be 21. Yes,
21, yeah, in production order. 20 if we're going by YouTube or Netflix standards, right?
and yeah, 20 by Netflix, and I think Paramount Plus it might be listed as 20 as well.
Oh, okay.
But
Oh,
on
I
Amazon, I think it's 20. It's 21. I
it's
think.
yeah. So basically, if you're counting the pilot as 2 episodes,
Right.
this is 21. So Detained is the long-awaited meeting between Scott Bakula and Dean Stockwell. Um, in its basic form. Um, it, it's one of those, and Star Trek. We were talking about this before we both headed out to our respective locales last week, but Star Trek does a good job of taking issue-based theater, if you want to call it that, pageant plays, whatever, um, and doing it in a way that doesn't feel kind of like an overt lesson.
Right.
This one kind of toes that line, in my opinion. Um, but I think they do a good job of it. So, long story short, the Enterprise and their crew. Well, you've got Mayweather and Archer wake up in we don't know where. It turns out that they're in a prison camp. They were in one of the shuttle pods, and they were taken into custody by this race of what are they?
The Suliban. No. They
No,
were
no,
the
no,
Tandarans.
Tangarans.
It was a Suliban
Yeah,
detention center.
detention center. Yeah, Suliban detention center by the Tangarans. I was going to say the Tandorans, but they're the
Or was it
like
Tandarans?
Tandarians. Yeah.
Now I need to look it up. I don't know if it was a Tand or Tang.
No. You're right. It's Tang because the
Okay.
Tandarians are the other folks that are part of Starfleet or part of the Federation.
Oh,
Um,
right.
Yeah, no. So the Tangorians, which are a fairly Earth-like looking species, but they're very wary right now because they're in the middle of a war with the Suliban, and they thought that Archer and Mayweather may be Suliban in disguise because, as we know, the Suliban can shapeshift
Oh, no,
and.
no. We were right. Tandarans.
Oh, they are the
Tandarans.
Tandarans.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So the Tandarans, hurrah! Um, so Archer and Mayweather are captured, brought into this Suliban um uh, encampment, which basically, and even the creators of this episode, the writers of this episode, they made it as kind of a uh, allegory for the Japanese American. Internment camp, Japanese
Right.
internment camps in America during World War II, of which, pardon me, of which George Takei was in when he was young. And he's written about that at
Mm-hmm.
different points in his life. Even in one of his autobiographies, he wrote about that fairly
Well,
extensively.
and he's been talking about it recently because of what's happening down at the border too.
And yes, absolutely, what's happening at the border,
Which
also
which
what's
also
happening
makes this episode relevant to stuff that's happening today.
today. I mean, it's so relevant. It's relevant on that, and then of course George Takei will also talk about because of the Asian American hate crimes that are
Mm-hmm.
going on right now. All that sort of stuff. So this episode, it, while at points I will confess it does feel a little too didactic, um, it never to me loses the focus uh, and the two actors that they got, Christopher Shea and what's the other Chris or Shea Christopher. Let me look it up real quick.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
we have Dennis Christopher and Christopher Shea. They play the two main Suliban. And then Dean Stockwell, who plays the very paranoid, even more paranoid than our favorite guy. Who is
Jeffrey
he?
Combs.
Yep, even more paranoid than him, playing Shran or Shran. They're
Shran,
this
tomato.
tomato, exactly. But they're even more paranoid. Uh, and and then of course we got to figure out what's going on. The Tandarans seem to not live up to their end of the bargain of letting Archer and Mayweather go because they think Archer and Mayweather are actually spies. And by the end of the episode, we've got Dominic Keating dressed up as a Suliban, and actually that's a pretty good disguise.
Yeah, it worked out pretty well. And
yeah,
I think this was this our first look at and like chronologically in Star Trek, the first time that we saw someone dress up as a different alien race, like cosmetic surgery type stuff.
Well, I know they've done that a couple of times in the series, but I think you might be right. I think this might be the first because they even joke about in the shuttle pod at the very end of it when they're flying back. He goes, "Okay, and tell the doctor to stand by because I'm starting to itch."
Yeah.
Because it's not any sort of. It obviously sounds like it's an actual like makeup job, not a not surgical changes as happens later in the series, or just later in Star Trek in the universe.
Yeah.
You might be right, actually. I'm trying to think because
it doesn't say here in the memory alpha that I can see. So
well,
I don't know.
There are times that they've dressed up to cover their appearances.
Yeah.
And T'Pol has gone down and has
like
worn
covered
her hair
her
longer.
Yeah.
Kind of similar to the episode where we see T'Pol's grandmother and on Earth. But I think you might be right, actually.
Yeah, I don't remember. Okay, so I've got I've got these pictures up here. You can see the screen. So here, let me uncheck these out. So
Oh
let's
yeah,
see.
yeah, yeah. What do we got?
This is the last one. So okay, so we're gonna recycle. This is Heirloom's thoughts about Neelix in general. Uh, this is Heirloom in or Neelix in an episode. I forget which, but that's an episode of one of the Power Rangers series. This is Neelix
Yeah,
about to get eaten by the alien queen.
Alien Queen. Yep. Which there's some news about aliens, by the way.
Yeah,
Uh,
I saw the
yep.
lawsuit. This is the new series, Dino Fury, with Neelix in the back, surprised about whatever these two guys are looking at.
You are having fun with After
Uh,
Effects now, aren't you?
Neelix hanging out with the cast of The
The
Big Bang
cast of
Theory.
Friends. Oh, that's Big
The
Bang.
Big Bang
Okay,
Theory, yeah,
okay.
yeah. A little bit newer, a little bit newer.
Well,
This
it's
is
very small on my screen,
oh,
so
this is Neelix helping Christian Bale out in 310 to Yuma,
as he needed help.
and this is Neelix being turned into a monster fighting the Megazord in Star Trek, or not Star Trek, Power Ranger Lightspeed Rescue. So that's going to be an ongoing thing now. Is just us in like trying to find different scenes from like whatever programs that we can insert Neelix into.
I
So
I I I, I think
it's
this
a
needs to be a thing.
it's a thread right now on Twitter. If you want to jump in on it, you are more than welcome
Okay, okay, we're gonna
to make some.
hashtag Neelix
Yeah,
and
it's
anything.
hashtag where is Neelix?
Where is Neelix? Okay, so is this kind of like a new Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego or Find Where's Waldo?
Like a cross between the two, maybe.
We should totally
I
find
mean,
a
I guess
picture
we
of
got,
Where's Waldo and put
and put
Neelix in there.
Neelix into it. Yeah, I can do that one next. Okay, so back to this episode. Let me ask you a question about
Yes.
Dean Stockwell's character. How do
Yes.
you feel about how they used his cameo in the show? Do you think this was an appropriate role for him to be meeting with Scott Bakula as their reunion type thing, or
Right.
would you have liked to see them interact in a different way?
I'm of two minds.
Okay.
Pa- I'll start with the positive. The positive is they had to have an episode with Dean Stockwell in it.
Mm-hmm.
They had to have it. And on top of that, what's great is that they put them on kind of equal footing in this episode. Dean Stockwell has the legitimacy of the Tandaran government behind him. He is an enforcer, so he gets to play a very strong character. So you are able to have a completely different relationship between the two of them than what we
Right.
know from Quantum Leap. So for that, I'm I applaud the effort and I like it. That being said, I really wanted it to be a happier reunion. I didn't want it to be a as if you look at some of the fandoms or the wikis, people will talk about how there's a couple lines right at their first meeting that both give homage to their happy beginnings and prelude to the crap that's going to happen in this episode.
Right.
Um, I giving voice to what I just praised as the positive. I like it, and I'm happy that they tried it. But I really would have liked to have seen an episode in which Dean Stockwell comes in as maybe a time traveler. Maybe he could have been another member of the what's the International Time Agency? Um, not
Yeah. You're talking about crewman like another person from
like
like
Crewman
Crewman Daniels.
Daniels.
Yeah.
If he could have been a Crewman Daniels, um, and I know you and I had discussed, so I'll leave what you had discussed with me. I'll leave that to you in a moment. But for me, honestly, for my money, I thank you, Donnie. For my money, I would have much rather seen it be an amicable reunion and have them in some way punch up the familiarity that they had, as
Yeah.
opposed to it being so uh, combative.
Yeah, like headbutting. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. For me, like I enjoyed the episode. I thought both of them were really good. Like I think their chemistry
absolutely,
together was really good. Um,
absolutely.
for me, like the Dean Stockwell's role in this honestly reminded me a little bit about of his character in Stargate SG-1. Um,
Mm.
he had a brief stint on there, not really recurring, but like he had a character that came back for like 2 or 3 episodes.
Uh-huh.
And he was a scientist on another planet that was working on basically their version of the nuke. With this new chemical composition, but the radiation was making him like hallucinate and see things that weren't really there.
Right.
Um, yeah, there was no quantum leap type stuff there. It was just like it was just like regular hallucinations. Like he was seeing, like he was imagining this resistance that
Oh, okay.
existed, that he was a part of, that was trying to stop the government from building this weapon,
So
and
kind of
destroying
kind of
themselves.
like the episode in Enterprise where they find the obelisk. Or no, it wasn't Enterprise. It was Voyager, where they find the obelisk on the planet, and it makes them relive a civil war.
Sort of, yeah, a little bit, but just like the storylines weren't the same, but just the kind of the way their characters acted,
Hmm.
at least were a little similar. I personally would have liked to see him, because you know, like if this was a show like Stargate, they would have dug into the meta thing, and they would have been like, okay, Scott Bakula is in this show. We're gonna bring
Yeah.
in Dean Stockwell. Dean Stockwell is going to be a scientist. He's going to invent some kind of device or something. Something is going to happen, and
Hmm.
it's going to make Scott Bakula disappear and be only visible to him. And the
Right.
two of them have to go through the episode and try and figure out how to make Scott Bakula uh, be seen again. And I was
Yep.
like, that would have been such a great concept for this. You know, make him a scientist that's working on like cloaking technology or something. Um,
Yeah.
and then like something happens, Archer gets zapped, and he like goes out of phase or something. But because
Hmm.
Dean Stockwell's character was also in the same room or in the same general area, he can see Archer, and he's the only one that can interact with him. So
Yeah.
you know that would have been fun. It would have been it would have been like a, not, I don't want to call it a filler episode, but it would have just been like a fun one off, not necessarily
Yeah.
tied to the main storyline episode.
I agree with that. I think it would have been much better had they been able to, and even if they had been able to tie it in, some way. But I think it would have been a much. Granted, I should say I enjoyed this episode.
Yeah, I
I
thought it
want to
was good.
take it away from what I wish I had have seen, but this is one of those instances where what I wish I would have seen doesn't take away from the fact that I enjoyed what I saw.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
they were
it's
both
not like a Game of Thrones episode where you're like, "Oh, that's not like the book. I don't like it."
right,
You know,
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
for me, that would be Batman v Superman or Justice League, where I'm like, this would have been so much better if they had done this instead.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
not exactly how I have it imagined in my mind, but if they had gone this route instead of the route that they did, or they picked
Hmm.
up this storyline instead, or waited for Doomsday, or you
Yeah.
know whatever, you know, with this, it's a completely different story than
Hmm.
what I would have envisioned if someone said, "Hey, we've got Dean Stockwell coming in for a cameo for an episode. Go ahead and write it." This is not the episode that I would have written.
Also, I will add in, and this is not to downplay the two gentlemen that they're with Christopher's in their name who played the two Suliban, because I thought they did fantastic, and in
Mm-hmm.
fact, they are as Star Trek loves to do. They have actually done previous and future episodes within Star Trek. Um, well, not future episodes, but within
Yeah,
the
yeah.
timeline of Star Trek in the future. But I really wanted Dean Stockwell to have more of a role than he did.
Mm-hmm.
Like I thought he was great, but he was pretty much isolated to that one boardroom. Now maybe that has to do with how he was able to shoot that day. There are so many things, as you
Yeah,
and I know, that
like
go into production.
they're shooting schedule, or
Hmm.
his shooting schedule. Yeah, there's
Yeah,
a lot of different things that could have played into
yeah.
where he was at the time.
Exactly. He might have only had the one day to shoot, so they had to bang out his scenes or
Mm-hmm.
something, and I get that, and that's fine. Um, but honestly, I I really wanted to see more of him, and and even with the character that they created for him and that he fleshed out, I thought fairly well. Um, I wanted to see more.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
so so I. as much as I do like the episode, I'm disappointed with the potential that it could have reached that it didn't.
Yeah,
Um,
I would agree with that. Like it
yeah.
was solid, and like the idea was there. Like
Yeah.
it was a good episode that got like all of its points across. I thought the pacing
Hmm.
of the storytelling
Yeah.
was really solid.
Hmm.
Um, it's interesting because like I can't think of anything I would have really done differently. Um,
With what they were creating,
yeah,
yeah.
with it within the realm of what this was. I did think that was interesting. Like I liked um, that they're introducing like that the Suliban spitting here.
That's okay.
That the Suliban are not like it's not a race of a warlike people. Like it's not all
Yes.
of them. There's regular people who are getting stuck just like
Yeah.
within this. Like they were talking about how the Cabal is going out and basically kidnapping other Suliban and
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
turning them into like soldiers.
Yeah. No, I did enjoy that, and that's great that we're transitioning into some things that I loved that it fleshed them out more. And to bring it back, as you mentioned, so apropos earlier, to bring it back to the border stuff, which has been happening for quite a few years in this country. Um, it I liked that it humanized, or well, Sulibanizes, if you want to use that word, but humanizes the Suliban, and you can see. And what was wonderful is that there was a father-daughter uh, bond going on there.
Yeah.
So, which honestly, even more appropriate to what's happening in our country right now. Um,
Well,
but I,
and I mean with them too, like that the like when you first meet them, when Archer goes out to get more water,
mhm.
and he sees them there, and he doesn't at this point he has absolutely no idea what's happening, so
No,
he's like really aggressive with the guy, and he's like, why are you bringing kids into this? Like what is she
yeah,
getting? Like what's she getting out of this? And he's like, everything isn't what you think it is,
hmm,
and then he ends up digging around and finding out what's going on. Um, but the fact that when the officer, the warden, or whatever you call him,
right.
the jailer guy comes out
The Yeah, yeah,
and it's like, oh, you're out past curfew, you're gonna have to go to solitary because this is your second time this week.
yep,
And Archer was like, it was my fault, I was holding
yep,
him up. um it's not. And the guy was like, whatever, you come with me. And
hmm,
like I feel like it's one of those things where people who are blamed for a current situation, there's that sect of the population who's like, they're all the same.
yeah. They're all the same, and it's just like I'm just trying to do, my job, or I'm trying to get by on my life, and
Mm-hmm.
then and what's painful, and this goes into another thing that's happening in our country, and I'll only touch on it lightly because this is obviously a larger conversation. But the wonderful thing about Star Trek is that the writers and the creators and the cast, they're always good about staying on top of what's happening. But when the Suliban, which is that hang on, let me get his name right. Uh is that the Suliban that you were just talking about? Is
Yeah,
that not Grat? Because Grat is
that was Danik.
Danik. Danik.
Yeah,
So Danik,
Danik was the one with the daughter and the wife that was in another
yes,
detention cell.
and
Sagen, played
Sajan,
by Christopher Shea, he was the other one who was like, "What are you doing with these humans? He looks just like them. How do you know
yes,
that? Like the same thing that Dean Stockwell he was like, they're spies working for the Tandarans. Like they were
yeah,
placed here specifically to get information from us, but
hmm,
knowing that they didn't have any information to give them because they didn't work with the Cabal, it's one of those things where it's that both sides of the same situation where both sides are afraid of the other side because of their history together.
Yeah, exactly. Both afraid of the history together, um, and and so of course mistrustful.
Mm-hmm.
But the Suliban were a bit more understanding in that, not understanding, but they just were kind of like, well, that's the way these people are, and I can't do anything about it. And I
Yeah, well,
that's kind of how it feels in this
and
country
like
right now.
I don't want to take the devil's advocate side to this,
Right,
because obviously detention centers are completely wrong, and the way that they were handling the situation was not morally or ethically right.
right.
However, Dean Stockwell, what was his character's name? Grat.
Grat at the
Grat,
very end. At the
like
very end.
he not even at the very end, but even earlier than that, he was like, this is for their own good. This is for
Yeah.
their safety. We are protecting them from being sent out into the galaxy to be kidnapped by the other Suliban and turned into soldiers.
And
So,
but
I got the sense, at least from the way that he was playing the character, that he really believed that.
of course he really believed that, but does that justify putting people in a detention center?
No, no,
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Just because he believes he's doing something for the right reason does not justify what they're doing. They could easily say to the Suliban, hey, we know that you got some shit luck out there from some of your other Suliban. Why don't you come hang out with us? We're going to protect you. We got your back,
But not only that, but like
fear wins out.
But then you also heard from Danik that this was one of the nicer detention centers that existed.
But,
And so looking at this, you're like, okay, well, if they're putting them into these camps, which is really what they were, they were concentration camps or detention centers, internment camps, whatever you want to call them.
I would say internment camps, concentration camps implies something more lethal.
Well, we don't know what they were doing to the other ones. Like we're told that there's like thousands of other Suliban in other camps, and based off of the way Grat was talking about what was going on, I wouldn't be surprised if they were experimenting on the Suliban and doing research on them in other camps that were out there
to try to figure out who's part of the cabal and whatnot, and how they do their shape shifting abilities and all that. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like obviously that's not ever explicitly stated, but that's once you take that first step and you start putting them into camps and it becomes a regular thing. Yep. That's the next logical step down that path. So it would not have been surprising at all for that to have come up. But if
and we got to bear in mind, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
We got to bear in mind this was 2001?
Yes, 2000.
Yeah,
2001.
If this was written today, it probably would have been even more so.
Oh yeah. What was I saying? Oh, so but if these were built for them to keep them safe, they would have been nicer.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it was a prison. It was an absolute den. There was nothing protective about it other than walls to keep people out. Which, by the way, don't let me forget, there's a moment that I want to make sure I talk about where the guards cracked me up at the end of the episode.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I what moment, like I know we've been talking about it for a little while now, but were there any like specific, you said that there was a couple of like specific moments that kind of stood out to you?
Yeah. Well, one of the moments we talked about, and that was that first moment where not Derek.
Sajin?
No, not Sajin. Danik. I was saying Derek. Danik. When Danik points out to Archer, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna go into solitary.
Yeah.
And then tells the other guard, please make sure my daughter gets back safe. Mm-hmm. That's one of the moments that stands out. The other are the two brief but impactful scenes between Sajin and Mayweather, and in which Sajin talks about, you don't know us, and how did you assumed this, and all that, and they completely dehumanize, dehumanize us. I'll just use that because it's easier to say, but dehumanize us and all that, and Mayweather, or Anthony Montgomery specifically, because he even talks about it, is the one to sit there and hear this and to speak both pro and con from his perspective. And Anthony Mayweather, Anthony Montgomery and Mayweather, obviously African American actor, African American, uh, well, boomer pilot. I
Mhm.
don't know what they identify as.
Yeah.
I don't think, but he is an African American actor, and so I thought it was very impactful and powerful to watch him being both the one to receive this from a character who is feeling the effects of discrimination, and also to give back. um Particularly, this is 2001. Did this episode air before or after 9/11? What was the
Let's
air
see.
date?
The air date would have been
It
before,
would have been right
I
before,
think.
right?
Let me see here. Oh no, sorry. This is after. This was April 24th, 2002.
Oh, this was April 2000, 2002.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, because we're
oh,
at the back end of the season now.
so this episode was probably written or after
Let me see.
9/11
There is a date here for the
for the
final
script,
for yeah
for the
for the
final edit of the
for the
script.
final edit of the script. That was. Let me see here. The final draft of this episode was issued on February 1st, 2002.
2002.
Yep.
So right in
So
line with
yeah.
all of the fears that were going on
Mhm.
and were being stoked.
Sorry to cut you off, but
No, no, no.
after 9/11 happened, I at the time I was working in the entertainment movie electronics department of Walmart.
Yep.
Um, and after 9/11, there were a lot of movies that got pulled off the shelf because of the content of the movies.
Hmm.
One of them was the Denzel Washington Bruce Willis movie The Siege, which was about
Really?
terrorist attacks
Terrorism.
in New York, and in order to figure out where the cells were, they created internment camps for Arab
For Arabic
for Arabic
Americans,
Middle
Muslim
Eastern people,
Americans.
yeah, who lived in New York. So
Wow.
that was all kind of, I don't want to say big at the time, but that was a topic that was popular in media, like during
Wow.
in that time frame.
Yeah. So it's absolutely no wonder that this was a parallel episode,
Mm-hmm.
and rightfully so. And it is powerful and sad that 20 years later, almost, it is still relevant, like painfully relevant,
Yeah,
not even just,
and that
over there
conversation
relevant.
that you were talking about, like that conversation, the one between Archer and Danik, um,
Danik.
I just with, well, you thought I was part of the cabal, like you
Yeah.
looked at us and you were like, you're the enemy, but
Hmm.
they looked at him the same way. They're like, you guys
Yeah.
are spies. You're in here not to do any good, and
Hmm.
that is, I mean, that's one of the biggest problems that we have in modern culture is people looking at other people as others. I think
And
that's the current term
others,
is like
others, yeah,
like you're being othered, and
othered, yeah,
that it's
happens quite a bit.
you're putting people into this box of who you think they are and what you think they are and how you think they act, and just because some people who are like them act a certain way doesn't mean that
Mhm.
everyone does.
No, and this translates into my third favorite moment
Mhm.
of the episode, where Grat or Stockwell and Archer Bakula are having a conversation, and I it's in a very heated moment, and Archer says that you may run this place, but I seem to know these people better.
Mhm.
I'm
Yeah,
paraphrasing,
yeah.
but that's the essence of what is said, and it hits me on so many levels, because I'm sitting there thinking that, wow, it's, where who really is paying attention,
Yeah.
and how deep in do you have to go to really get to know someone? Because, like, Archer is saying this, but he's stuck in the same situation. Whereas, do you really have to be stuck in the same situation to understand somebody's pain? The answer is no, you don't. There's a thing called empathy,
Mhm.
which pretty much everybody should have. Not everybody does. And sympathy as well. You don't have to live through someone else's experiences to understand not necessarily exactly what they're going through, but that they have pain and that
Right.
it hurts them. And or and vice versa. Somebody else doesn't have to live through what you're going through to understand that you have pain or something. And to your point earlier, the thing of the other, it's I now we're trying to solve the ills of the world on an episode about Star Trek that
But I mean
roughly 30 to 40 people are going to watch, but
that's I think what sets Star Trek apart from
yes,
other shows. Um, like there's tons of other media out there, and but Star Trek has a way of tackling social issues that a lot of other shows that try just can't. It's like
yeah,
there's shows that like there's was it Law and Order SVU that
hmm,
deals with oh the special victims unit that like
yeah,
that's all the types of crimes that they deal with.
yeah,
But I can watch that, and to me it still feels like
heavy-handed,
like I'm watching a show. Yeah, sort of heavy handed, like it's there. Whereas with Star Trek, it's the story that's happening within it.
yeah,
Like because it's not a directly saying this is what's going on and this is why it's wrong. It's done through allegory,
yeah.
through other things. I feel like it's a little bit more approachable for people. Like right now,
I
a Falcon and Winter Soldier is doing a really good
mm.
job with that. With what's happening
I
with
haven't seen last night's episode, by the
so,
way.
yeah. So I'm not. Well, I don't want to spoil it for people anyway.
Mm.
But the way that they're dealing with just John Walker as a character and like what is
Oh wow, that
and what
scene at the end of the fourth
oh there's
episode.
that. Just wait till you see last night's episode. Like
Yeah.
it's just so good. But like
It's going into PTSD too, which is
yeah,
a
and
huge topic that needs to be
it's
discussed.
it's interesting to me because both John Walker and Bucky are dealing with very similar issues,
They're just
but they're
dealing with
dealing
it in different
but
ways.
they're also at different points in their lives of dealing with it.
True. True.
They're also and what's happened to both of them is a little bit different
It's a
too.
little different. Yeah, what
Um,
happens to John Walker has not necessarily happened to Bucky.
and
And what
and
happened
vice
to
and
Bucky
vice
did not
versa.
happen to John
Right,
Walker.
right. But John Walker's
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
yeah,
I'll wait till yeah, I'm sure.
from the last episode, you can see that what happened to Bucky, he's now done to himself.
Right.
So it's and it just kind of grows from there.
And to your point about oh sorry, you were going to
No,
finish
no, no,
something.
no. Go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
Oh, what I was going to say to your point about what Star Wars or Star Trek does, Star Wars does not do any of this, especially now that it's owned by Disney.
Well,
um,
but I mean, Falcon and Winter Soldier is a Disney
actually,
production.
you know what? You've got a point. But and but Star Wars, I think it's the creative team behind it. It was never envisioned this way. Gene Roddenberry
Yeah.
envisioned Star Trek to be a conversation starter,
Mhm.
not only with science, but also with race and gender and sexual identity and ideology and the thought of the other. All those sorts of things. That's kind of what Gene Roddenberry was hoping for from the get-go, or
Right.
at least my interpretation of what has happened, because that's what the show was when he was helming it and what it has continued to be past him. So that is one of the greatest strengths also, and I think we kind of discussed this a little bit. Maybe I don't remember if it was on episode or just behind closed doors, but sci-fi, I think, is much it's set up in a way that is it's more able to tackle societal issues and woes and challenges in a way that feels removed enough that you can actually think about them and also enjoy what you're watching and not feel like what you're watching is trying to teach you something, whereas something like SVU is basically you're watching something that you're supposed to think could be happening tomorrow or
Right. Like
yesterday.
you watch SVU and you're like, this is this is something that actually could happen.
Yes.
This feels like a recreation of a thing. I know that the people that they're going after are bad people. Like no one that they're arresting has
Yeah.
good intentions behind their actions. Like
No, very
these
rarely
are
do they
all
have that kind of
scumbags
episode.
who are defiling people
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
molesting people and assaulting people in some way.
Yep. And if
Whereas
they do have a character that's somewhat repentant or what's the word where they can be redeemable, it's it from the get go.
yeah. Whereas with sci-fi or like even comic books in general, like I don't know of any other genre except maybe westerns where
Mm.
you'll get a villain who may eventually become a good guy.
Uh, well, I mean, Bucky.
But that's a comic book.
Oh, true. Comics. You did say comics. Sci-fi comics. What else is
Sci-fi
there?
comics
Action.
and
Well, no. I mean,
westerns.
action movies. You do have. I mean, the Fast and Furious
Well,
series is
yeah,
full of.
yeah,
But Fast and Furious, I would argue, could be lumped into comic because it's
yeah.
very unrealistic. Um, yeah, you don't see that much in realism.
Right.
Yeah.
We're never going to see, like Jeffrey Dahmer, like be portrayed as like
As a sympathetic,
as a redeemed, sympathetic, good guy
yeah,
who's now helping track down
other
other people.
cannibals or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Donnie put something in the comments there. I'm not familiar with the Law and Order series too much, but do you know anything about organized crime?
Um, I think that's the one that Dan Hedaya was in.
Oh, okay.
I think no, not Dan Hedaya. Joe Montana.
Oh.
The guy who sounds like Joe Montana, but it's not
Yeah, I like Joe
Joe
Montana.
Montana.
Yeah.
I think that's the one that he's in. I don't remember, or no, that might have been Criminal Minds. I don't remember.
I hope that Donnie will
I
correct you
haven't seen
regardless.
Organized Crime. Like I know, like I used to watch CSI every once in a while. But
Sorry to put you on the spot then.
I never watched any of those like regularly. Like I never really like sat
Gotcha.
down and watched them all the way through. It was always like, oh hey, this is on. I've got nothing else I'm watching right now. I'll leave this on and just watch an episode here or there.
Yeah, I got to be honest. I watch them occasionally because my mother does. So when
Mm-hmm.
I'm down here visiting in Florida, I'll watch them with her. And the only other time I watch them is if I've got a friend who's done stunts on it. But they're not bad shows. I mean, they fill a niche and they're fun.
I know you said Organized Crime, not Criminal Minds. I was getting I get them all confused. I don't know which one's which.
Organized criminal minds. Let's just
Yeah,
put it all
I
together.
couldn't tell you the difference between Law and Order and like I know like NCIS is a different show too, but I couldn't tell you the difference
Right.
between any of those except that
Well, Donnie, I hope you.
Except that Scott Bakula is on NCIS New Orleans.
Oh, that's true. That's true. So Captain Archer is back in New Orleans.
Mm.
Um, I wanted to talk upon, and again, as I mentioned beforehand, I don't have my notes on me because I'm down here in Florida and I wasn't able to bring everything with me. But
How
I
dare
was
you?
really, yeah, right. I was really impressed with the two actors who played Danik and Sajin, both of which have played previous characters. But what I know them best from is from their turns on Voyager. Both had played Vorta at different points.
That would have been Deep Space Nine.
Oh, Deep Space Nine. Yeah. Sorry, not Voyager. Deep
Yeah.
Space Nine. Sorry, why I have Voyager on the brain?
Well,
I
because
don't know it.
the last time that we saw the Tandarans before this episode, or the only time that we had seen the Tandarans was in the 29th century, in the Relativity episode of Voyager.
That's right. That's right. Thank you. Thank you for reminding me. But yeah, I really enjoyed both of their turns as their Vorta counterpart. Well, not counterparts, but when they played their Vorta, because those are some of the cooler episodes, particularly the one, what is it? The Magnificent Ferengi
Yeah.
is one of them, and let me see. And then so Kevon, which is what the Christopher Shea played Kevon, and you might remember Kevon from the episode, which was I really enjoyed this episode of Deep Space Nine, and we'll get to there, in a year or two. Um,
Or
but
17.
or 17. But Kevon, do you remember the episode where there was the crew of Jem'Hadar and one Vorta, and the Vorta was rationing out the what was the thing
That
that
was
the
the one where they were
Jem'Hadar
like
needed?
they had like crashed on a planet or something.
Yes,
It
they
was
had crashed.
the Tetracell White.
Yes, the Tetracell White, and this one Vorta Kevon came in
Sorry, I just
under
want to make a
cover of
point.
night.
Like the fact that I know stuff like that, that's why I can't do math, because my head has been filled with all these random facts about like Star Trek and Star Wars and comic books that I just don't have any space left in there for algebra.
Which is
It just
also why
doesn't
you
stick.
don't remember that Joe Montana was not in Law and Order
Right.
Organized
Right.
Crime. But so in this one episode of Deep Space Nine, the name of the episode is Rocks and Shoals. It's so they find that crew of Jem'Hadar, and
Well, because
in the
Cisco and was it O'Brien
Mhm.
had crashed on that planet
Crashed.
too.
Yeah, and
So
and
they were all no, they were fighting, right?
they were fighting.
They were
Yeah.
out like a shuttlecraft or something. The Jem'Hadar ship or the Vorta ship,
Had kidnapped some of
Dominion
them.
ship had they were in a space battle of some kind, and they both damaged each other enough that they crashed on the planet, and now they were stuck there.
And they were stuck there. And then Kevon in the middle of the night came over and struck a deal saying, hey, if you destroy all the Jem'Hadar, I'll let you take me prisoner and we'll strike a deal. And Cisco didn't want to do it. And then Kevon said, they're going to attack you because their honor demands it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is how you can destroy them. And then so Cisco begrudgingly said, okay. And then they basically choke pointed the Jem'Hadar, and they decimated this small contingent of Jem'Hadar, and then took Kevon captive. And then I think the next episode, I believe the next episode was the Magnificent Ferengi, or maybe it was a couple episodes down. But then Kevon is brought in, and then he's part of the group of the Ferengi, and he gets killed.
Yeah.
But that Rocks and Shoals episode was fantastic.
Mm-hmm. So I just in my effort to convert more people over to liking Star Trek in the on the retro stream just before this, I hope I convinced Jonathan, aka Blackwing 2040, to watch my favorite episode, which is the one that I try and get everyone to watch if I'm trying to get them to watch Star Trek, the Beyond the Stars episode.
Yep. Well, let me know how it goes.
Yeah. Because it'd be good to have another person to kind of bounce off of here. Not that I don't enjoy talking to you.
No, I'm boring. But, I know.
More having more people in Star Trek. I need to start a cult to DS9, and the only way I'm going to do that is getting more people on board.
Okay, well, I'm not into a cult here, so
this is a fun kind of cult, though. Not the this is a good cult.
But if you need me to, just once you figure out how to do the transporter graphic, transport me into one of the Sentai episodes or whatnot, and I'll come in, say a little something Star Trek, and then bounce out.
That'd be fun though. Like maybe okay. Here's what I will talk with Corey and Jonathan, who are the two like big Sentai experts, and Donnie, if you want to chip in on this idea as well, since the reason I suggest that episode of DS9 to people is because even though it's not a standalone episode, you don't need to know what's happening outside of that episode to understand the episode and appreciate the story that's happening within it.
Very true.
So if they can give me an episode of any season of Power Rangers that works the same way as that does for Star Trek, I will pass that on to you, and we will have it'll be me, you, and Blackwing, and we'll discuss that episode of Power Rangers and this episode and that episode of Deep Space Nine, and how and kind of how they work on that level.
That
I think that'll
I'm
be
down
fun.
for that.
Yeah, it'll be
I'm
a good
down for that.
it'll be a good crossover.
Yeah, that'd be great. And to be open about how unknowledgeable I am of, not that I'm super knowledgeable about Star Trek, but I have a great passion for Star Trek.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
as far as Power Rangers is concerned, I still think Tommy's a Power Ranger.
I mean, he shows up like almost every other season.
Okay, what about
Like
Jace?
he still comes back. He made an appearance in the last series.
Okay, what about Kimberly?
She has not returned at all, as far as I know.
Okay, Billy.
Billy has not been back.
Yeah, and neither of the other two. And don't.
Donnie can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think Billy's made an appearance since the Power Rangers Alien Rangers. I don't think he's come back since then.
Okay.
Then the other one would be Trini, who she passed away in 2001. And that's really it. We had Jason and Zach. I don't know. I don't know if he's been back.
I was about to say, and then we've got Zach. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
So and then Bulk and Skull, and I know they stuck around for a while.
They were around for a while, and then they left for a while. Like they actually, the season that we're on now is the first season that doesn't have an appearance by either one of them.
Oh, okay. So they stuck around for a bit.
Yeah, so we're in season 8 now. So season 7 was the last season where you, like, even if they weren't like a big part of the series, they at least had a cameo in it.
Billy was last seen in the episode of Zeo.
Okay.
Or in an episode.
So I think that was after Alien Rangers, maybe. Zeo was like the last. I want to say Zeo was like the last season that I actually watched regularly, because that was the original. That was more or less the original team.
Now Sentai, and again, we need to get back to Star Trek, although I think we're just about done with the episode anyway. Sentai is the actual show in Japan, right? Not the Americanized Power Rangers.
Yeah, so Tokusatsu is the style that's called, and then Super Sentai is the name of the show that Power Rangers adapts for the American version of the series.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, no, I'm totally down with that. Let me know when it's happening, and I'll sit through an episode of Power Rangers.
They're 22 minutes, so
yeah, that's true.
So
it's not going to be that hard.
So unless he gives you like a 2 or 3 parter, then. But even at that point, they're 22 minutes. So that's an hour.
Hey, if it's the episode where somebody's going to say, "Hey, this is going to make you a Power Rangers fan," and not that I'm not. I mean, I loved the Super Nintendo video game when I was a kid. That was super fun.
Right.
It's not a great game, but it was fun.
It might be the first episode of Operation Overdrive.
Okay.
Because
would you put money on that?
So. I don't know, because Joe showed me that episode a while back, and it's a completely different style of show than what I've come to be used to now in the 3 years of doing this. So that I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up being Operation Overdrive, but they could surprise me and go in a different direction. So okay, let's wrap out this episode of Enterprise. Detained.
Yep.
Excuse me.
Excuse you.
Let me see if there were any specific notes. Excuse me again.
There weren't that many. There weren't that many tidbits on this episode, other than what we caught of the 2 Christophers who've been in previous episodes. You all right?
Excuse me. Yeah. Swallowed the wrong way.
I was about to say, watch out for them bugs.
Let's see.
Dean Stockwell making his. Whether or not it was a long-awaited appearance. While you're looking up that stuff, I will say, back to the point about sci-fi being a good place for these kind of conversations, not just sci-fi, because there are certain parts of sci-fi that have the conversation and certain that don't. Star Trek has the conversation, whereas a show like DS9, not DS9, Stargate, SG9, what you were talking about the episode earlier where Dean Stockwell has a cameo on there. That's not a show that, to me, I think of, they're going to have a hard conversation. They're going to go the more fun route.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, Deep Space Nine is one of those interesting series where there's a lot of just fun episodes, but
No,
there's
not Deep
also
Space Nine. Stargate.
oh
Stargate.
oh 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 oh.
I meant
Sorry,
Stargate.
sorry, sorry.
No, I said DS9, but I misspoke.
I
I
might have
meant
misheard
Stargate.
too.
No. Well,
Uh,
I might have cut off. I'm not sure my access is the greatest right now.
yes. Well, so Stargate is an interesting show because when it started on Showtime, originally, it was a much more. I don't want to say serious because like one of Richard Dean Anderson's demands when he agreed to do the show was that it was given a much lighter tone than the movie.
Yeah.
Even though the movie itself had like towards the end of the movie, it had a much lighter tone than it did at the beginning.
Right.
But the series was definitely a bit more campy.
Hmm.
But when it moved over to sci-fi, that like they just like ratcheted that up, and
Gotcha.
then Stargate Atlantis like ratcheted that up even more.
Yeah. Well,
And
that's what
then
sci-fi was known for. I mean, the home of Sharknado.
yeah, but this was before that. Like so
Yeah, of
start
course.
so
This
SG,
is what this that you can blame SG1 for Sharknado.
maybe so SG1. Well, it's more the mockbusters. Like I would blame things like Anaconda 7 for Sharknado.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Um, or Lake Placid 5. But yeah, or Anaconda versus Lake Placid, I think was a movie or something like that.
Right, and
Uh,
and then you had Sharktopus and
yeah,
all
yeah, a
yeah.
lot of those weird things. But no,
Yeah.
so Stargate started in '97
Hmm.
on Showtime. First 5 seasons were aired there, got canceled, and then Sci-Fi picked up the rights to it because they were looking for new programming at the time. Did well for them. Stayed on for another 5 years, through season 10. Ended shortly after its like 200th episode. I want to say.
Wow.
But that
Wow.
spun off season 7. I want to say of SG1 was the beginning of Stargate Atlantis. Then Stargate Atlantis ran its course for 5 episodes, and then I think a year or two after that was when Universe came in. Universe came
Hmm.
in on the heels of Battlestar Galactica, so it toned down all of that campiness that we were getting, and tried to mimic the feel that we got from Battlestar Galactica.
Right.
Um,
Gotcha.
so
But
yeah,
then, but
so
then, and then,
so
and then you've got shows like Battlestar Galactica, which completely was heavy.
mhm.
I mean,
But
so
then
it was
even on sci-fi, like you have stuff like The Magicians, which was a really solid show. It had its campy moments in it, but it also dealt with a lot of heavy topics
and then you also have The Librarian.
with Noah Wiley from ER,
Hey, at
and
least he was getting
and
work.
what's her name? That's now on Star Trek, uh, Strange New Worlds.
Discovery. Oh,
No,
Strange New Worlds. Oh, really? Okay.
um, Jerry O'Connell's wife, Rebecca Romaine.
Really? Rebecca Romaine she was in The Librarian?
I think so. Yeah,
Fair enough.
yeah. Rebecca Romaine was in the TV show.
I just know the show exists.
Yeah. I think John Larroquette was in it too.
Actually, you know what? I think you're right. I remember seeing him on trailers for it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's same tone. I think is like the Indiana Jones ish. Like say like if you were to
Yes.
cross like Indiana Jones with the either the Poltergeist Legacy series, I think that might be where we're at.
Oh,
The
did the
librarians,
Librarian air
yeah,
on TNT?
yeah. Librarians were on TNT or TBS, one of those.
Okay.
I don't
I,
remember which one.
I wasn't meaning that it was a sci-fi show. I just
Yeah, just
as on channel,
that
just that
style. Yeah.
it's that camp kind of
Falling
sci-fi.
Skies, another Noah Wiley show. That one was actually pretty
Yep.
good too.
Yep. That was
Um,
TNT as well, I think. You're right.
yeah,
Yeah.
TNT, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. So what would you rate this episode of Enterprise?
I'd say a 4-3.
Okay.
A solid 4-3. You could persuade me to give it a 4-5.
I think I would go with a 4-5. There was nothing inherently wrong with it. Like there was nothing where like outside of my desire to see like some campy fun, like
Yeah.
there like this was a solid episode, and there weren't any like plot holes or like weird things where I was like,
Yeah.
this contradicts something that we saw previously. Um, I think it was a good episode. I honestly don't know what's keeping me from giving it a 5, except room for better episodes. Uh,
That's the reason I would give it that is room for better episodes. I don't quite think it for me it doesn't quite hit a 5 because it's very static. It's a very contained
yeah,
episode. It
I think for me, if like just even though I don't remember a lot of Enterprise, I do remember that nothing that happened in this episode is um revisited later on in the future. Like we don't see Dean Stockwell's character again. I don't think the
which was
Tindar.
unfortunate. I
Yeah,
was hoping they'd come back because the Suliban were a big thing for half of the show.
yeah. I think if this episode had spawned out like a storyline that we followed into other
Hmm.
episodes, I think I
Yeah.
might be rating it higher now.
Well,
But
it kind of does. It kind of does. But then it peters out. There's the episode when they go to Risa, and the woman that Archer encounters and becomes friendly with, it is assumed that she is in league with the Tandarans. If I remember that episode correctly, because
I
she
don't remember
says
that one.
we'll get to that next season, I think. Um, but she says some things that are very similar to what Dean Stockwell says. And Donnie, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Good to
Yes,
see you
Donnie,
again
thank you for joining us again, and we will see you next week probably.
next week. And are we going to try to stream tomorrow if we can? Do some Twitch?
Yeah. If we can, my
Yep.
internet here seems to be fairly steady. I was having some problems with it this morning. I
Yeah.
can't I couldn't get my PS5 to log in. Like
Really?
it had been working fine, and then like it's because you have to like like when you get into like a network at like Starbucks or something, you have to log in before it gives you access to the internet.
Right.
So that's the thing that it does here. The PS5 is weird with that. Instead of popping up a web browser on the PS5, I have
Yeah.
to log into another network that the PS5 puts out and then sign into the network that I'm trying to sign into through that
Yeah.
for some reason. The last time they had signed in on it was at like 10:30 yesterday morning.
Sure.
So 24 hours later, it kicks me off and it's like, okay, well, you have to sign in again, but now it's not letting me sign in.
Yeah. The hotel life. I understand that.
So I don't know. I couldn't find a hardline plug
Hmm.
for me to plug into. So
Yeah.
we'll see how that works out. Luckily,
We'll try.
the game that we're playing is on the PC,
Yep.
not on the PS5. I figured out how to share the internet from my laptop to the PS5 though. So now
Oh, okay.
so even that shouldn't be a problem now. Um,
Cool.
I am disappointed though. There's no Paramount Plus app on the PS5.
Well, there's no Paramount Plus app on my TV either, so I have to watch it from this little guy.
Are you not able to cast it from your phone to your TV?
I don't have a way to
Chromecast. Yeah.
because well, it's not that I don't have. I do have a Chromecast. This particular phone, it doesn't necessarily work
Right,
the way that
right.
all phones do.
It's to me, it's just funny because I was like, before I left, I was like, should I take the Xbox to the PS5? I'm not going to bring both because both would be way too much. I should have brought the Xbox.
Yeah.
But,
Well, hopefully we'll get a stream in tomorrow or a Twitch in tomorrow. If we don't, we'll try next week. My internet's, I don't have my stable internet either, so we'll figure it out.
yeah, hopefully it should be good enough at least for gaming.
Yeah,
I would think. But yeah, so we'll try that out. Worst case, maybe we can have Shay run it from the apartment where he's got better internet. And we call into him instead of us calling in here.
sure.
So we'll try that out. Plugs for the rest of the week. Today, this is it. We're the last show. Tomorrow morning, mid afternoon, depending on where you're at, you can catch Bryn and Heirloom with their Sentai show. I forget Zenkaiger, I think is the name of the show that they're currently talking about. Tomorrow night at 8 p.m., 9 p.m. Pacific time, it will be the Illuminati Wrestling Order. Tuesday night, it's All Connected, which is covering everything DC and Marvel, and I think Star Wars related as well. Thursday night will be the watch along for the finale of Falcon and Winter Soldier. If you guys are not watching that show, it is amazing. I can't say that I'm enjoying it more than WandaVision, but I do think it might be a slightly better show.
Mm.
And longer episodes, it gives them a lot more time to flesh things out, and it's more socially relevant, I guess.
Well, I mean, I don't know if it's more socially relevant because dealing with grief and trauma and isolation, I think it's just as socially relevant.
I think there's a wider variety of social impact topics.
There are more characters going through things than yes. I will go with you on that. And I just have to be excited about this news, and yet also woeful about this news that Disney is leaning on the Fox partners to put out an Aliens franchise movie every 1 to 2 years.
Yeah, that would be great. I don't know if you saw the news about the weird news about Lord of the Rings.
The Netflix show?
Amazon. So there's
Amazon.
There's two different pieces of information now that have been released about Lord of the Rings and Amazon. So the first is that the series, which we now know has a 20 episode order for the first season. This first season cost them $465 million. Here's the thing with that though. I've seen a lot of people on Twitter complaining. They're like, well, do you know how many movies or TV shows I could make with $465 million? I'm like, yes. But here's the thing. They have a 5-year plan right now for the Lord of the Rings series.
Right.
This $465 million is probably going to cover stuff that they will be using throughout the entire course of the show.
Yeah.
About 200 million American dollars of that was just for purchasing the rights to Lord of the Rings. So
budget wise, it's only 265.
Right. And and out of that 265 or even 300, we don't know how much of that went to building sets, building digital assets that will be used repeatedly over the course of the next 5 seasons. And again, 20 episodes in this first season, if that's continuing in the next 4 seasons after this one as well.
Yeah.
If these episodes are 45 minutes each,
that budget will not stretch.
Right, that's 15 to 20 hours of TV per season. So over the course of the season, that's at least just for season 1, even if that 300 million was only being used for this first season.
Yeah.
That's like around 10 million an episode, 8 million an episode. Mm-hmm. So that's a lot, but for this type of show, it doesn't really seem like it's that much because that's half of a movie. A 1 hour episode would be half of a movie.
Yes. Yeah, that's pretty fair.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people are taking that number at face value without necessarily knowing the background to it. I absolutely agree that it's a stupid amount of money for a TV show.
But when you break it down.
But when you break it down and the fact that we don't know where all of it's going.
Yeah.
But the second piece of Lord of the Rings news is apparently Amazon was also working on a Lord of the Rings video game. And that's
this canceled. I didn't hear.
Yeah, well, you're not going.
And it doesn't matter now.
It doesn't matter now because they have stopped development on it.
Did EA come in and say, "Hey, what are you doing?" or something?
Well, no, because Amazon bought the rights to Lord of the Rings.
Oh, full rights.
I think so.
Wow.
So part of that money that they spent on
that
the rights,
$200 million went for full rights for Amazon.
Probably, yeah. So they probably even own the rights for a movie now too. I wouldn't be surprised. So
I guess I want their Game of Thrones. They want their Game of Thrones audience.
I'm going to just random stuff that we're currently watching. I think The Nevers starts this week. Mm-hmm. I know Joss Whedon had been attached to it one time, and that gives a lot of people like, oh, I'm not going to watch
Yeah,
it. He's no
right.
longer involved with it.
Hmm.
He parted ways with HBO. I don't know how much of his influence is going to be in this first season, but it looks good.
I'm excited for it.
Um, I think there's another show. I think it's a Netflix series called Shadow and Bone. That also looks good. I'm gonna start. I'm
Have
gonna
you
try
seen
starting to watch
anything about
that.
the Irregulars?
I saw a trailer for it. I think.
Uh-huh.
If I remember correctly, that also looked interesting.
That's the one. That's the one with the group of young people. I don't think they're all kids, but younger people who are helping out Holmes and Watson.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I might give that one a shot. Obviously, Falcon and Winter Soldier, Loki, when that starts up in a couple of weeks.
Yep.
Invincible. If you're not watching Invincible,
Oh,
so good, so good. Um,
yes.
that's another show that is able to kind of cover. I can't necessarily say social issues, but like the relationship drama type stuff that I don't like about like the CW shows.
Yeah. It
Invincible's doing
covers
a
it
real
well.
yeah, Invincible's doing a really good job of
Yep.
not making it feel forced to fit
Yep.
into the story that they want to tell in the show. Whereas
It covers a lot of ground.
like the Flash and Arrow and some of those shows feel more like DC's version of One Tree Hill now.
Yeah. Ugh.
So
I gave up on
it's
those a few seasons
or
back.
Dawson's Creek. I still like Legends of Tomorrow.
Dawson's Flash,
Yeah,
Super
Flash.
Creek.
Flash. I don't think it's as good as it was in the first couple of seasons, but
Hmm.
Smallville, like I feel like Smallville went through its growing pains too. Like I really enjoyed the first few seasons of that. The middle couple of seasons I was like, eh. But then
Are the two guys from Prison Break
seasons
still
were
on
good.
Legends of Tomorrow?
So interesting enough. Um, Dominic Purcell was the last guy. Was the only one that was left.
Yeah.
Was it what's his name? Wentworth Miller had left a couple
Uh-huh.
of seasons ago. But Dominic Purcell posted on Instagram last night. I'm walking away from Legends of Tomorrow. So this season
Whoa.
that is starting on May 2nd is the last season that he will be appearing in.
Wow.
It seems like there's some like fucked up shit happening in the background on the studio side.
Uh-huh.
Because like last season, Brandon Routh and his wife Courtney Ford left because they were like there was contract negotiation stuff that wasn't going the way they wanted it to, and the studio was refusing to budge on it. So Brandon Routh was like, "Listen, if you're not going to renew her contract or even give her a place on the show, I'm gonna walk too." And they were like, "All right." So now he's gone as well. Constantine, I think, is a full character of regular now.
Hmm.
But Superman and Lois is
Hmm.
really good. That's quickly rising in the ranks of one of my favorite DC shows. Favorite DC show though is Doom Patrol on HBO Max. It was on DC Universe, now it's on HBO Max. It is really solid. Um, and Harley Quinn the animated series is also really fun. But yeah, so we'll be back next week with episode 22, which hopefully I will find the answer to in a second. On which I don't.
While you're finding the answer, let me just say, if you enjoyed the time you had with us, let your friends know, and if you didn't, still let your friends know.
You tell your
I don't want to
friends, your
meet your
enemies.
enemies. I don't want to meet your enemies. I don't like enemies. I like friends. Frenemies are okay.
Yeah. Let's see. We're in season 1. I don't like it. The
It
fandom
feels like we
fandom
should be in season 2.
right? Fandom is so weird with the way it. Some shows that are on fandom, it'll say
Yeah,
next episode is this, previous episode is this, but then other shows it won't do that for.
nothing there.
And like this one's one of them. So the next episode that we have of Enterprise is Vox Sola. A symbiotic alien comes aboard the Enterprise and captures several of the starship's officers in its web. Hoshi struggles
Uh,
to communicate with the alien invader in an attempt to save the trapped officers.
Yay from Rad Culture or Bad Culture. Sorry, I don't have my
Uh,
glasses on.
Bad Culture is Jay,
I
who is on our
Yeah,
wrestling show. Thank you again for joining us. I will try
thank
and tune
you.
into wrestling tomorrow night if I haven't passed out and preparation for work on Monday.
I'm in Orlando. Maybe I should see if I can get on the set.
It's not too far away from where you are, I don't think.
Not at all.
Um,
All right.
so yeah, so that'll do it for us. Thanks for stopping by, Jay. We will see you when we see you.